Welcome to Pemberley Farm. Well, this is September 4th, I think today is. And September, for those of you that don't know, is considered Preparedness Month. Now, I'm going to tell you that I've got a few notes because I'm going to say some things and I don't want to forget everything that I wanted to say to you this morning. But anyway, September's Preparedness Month. And all this month we're going to be doing a series of videos about preparedness and what that means and different things about preparedness. So stay tuned for that. So the first question is, what does it mean to be prepared? Well, to begin with, it means to be ready to do something or to act because of something else or to deal with something. Now, whatever that something might be, we don't know. But let's talk about a few things that it might be. Well, I live in Hurricane Alley, okay? So hurricanes are a real thing for me. So we have to be prepared for hurricanes. Michael hit us 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, and it was a really bad thing, and we were without power for a very long time. And so, you know, that's a pretty big deal. So those are things that you have to think about. Wherever you live, what is it that could affect your life? So for me, hurricanes are a real concern. Then there's tornadoes. I know that there's people out in the Midwest and in the upper South that have to worry about tornadoes. Ice storms. I know that there are some people that live in really cold climates. I don't think that in Northwest Florida that's something we'll have to worry about, but there are those of you that might have to worry about an ice storm. Earthquakes. In California and other places along the New Madrid Fault in the Midwest, or out in the middle of the country, or and right now there's earthquakes in really odd places. There was one not so very far from me recently, which is kind of unheard of. So you just don't know. But wherever you live, if it's earthquake prone, you need to be thinking about this. Job loss. You never know when something might happen and you might lose your job, which leads us to the next one, which is the pandemic that we're in. Who ever dreamed that we'd have another pandemic? Well, we're in the middle of it. And I know a lot of you and your friends and family have lost their jobs. And so that is a real concern. So job loss is another thing that you have to be concerned about. Crop failures. Now we garden and we try to put up enough every year that we garden for more than to the next year's garden. Because what if next year's garden we have a crop failure? And so what we try to do is put up more than what we would need for a full year to get us into the next gardening season after that. So crop failures for whatever reason, some of which might be floods, some of which might be droughts, because that of course is a really big deal right now. It's either one or the other. It's either feast or famine as far as water is concerned. And of course, the zombie apocalypse. Well, I'm teasing about that. But you never know. Look at the unrest in the country right now. Look at all the things that are going on. And so it's, it could be a real problem. The economy, is good and then it's not. So there's just a lot of things to think about when you think about being prepared for what comes. So, preparedness is not, y'all have to excuse me. I have some sinus issues today, and so that's why I'm holding a Kleenex. So, preparedness is not a new thing. Think about it. Our grandparents, our ancestors, they prepared all the time. It was their way of life. It wasn't that, something's bad going to happen. It was, I need to make sure I have up enough food for the winter and into the next spring when I start bringing in the garden. Or if I'm hunting or raising meat, I need to have enough for a certain amount of time. So they did it, and it wasn't called being preparedness, so to speak. It was just called life. So look at behind me. You can see this is just part of what we have put up this year, and some of it we raised. These are dry beans. Of course, I bought them. But there's a lot of things that you can do that our grandparents did. Our grandparents did this. They canned, they put up, like I say, however they preserved it, they preserved their harvest for a future time. So they did the same thing. We either can or freeze all that we raise, vegetables, fruit, and animals, because we raise our own animals, a lot of them too. So that's the thing that you need to think about. You know, it's not anything new. It's just not. So now you might say, well, I'm a Christian and I want to trust God. I believe God's going to take care of me. Well, I am too, and I believe that with all my heart that God watches over us. But I'm telling you that sometimes, you know, you have to take responsibility for your own self. I understand that manna rained down from heaven for the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. But God didn't build Noah's boat, and he didn't put the grain in the granaries for Joseph. They had to do their part. And so that's the way I look at it, that we are responsible for doing our own thing. We're not just going to sit on our couches and say, okay, Lord, let it just all appear before me. I think that he expects us to be involved as well. So listen, we're not talking about doomsday preppers and hoarders here. We're not talking about that. But do you remember when all of this pandemic mess first started, about the great toilet paper fiasco, how you couldn't get toilet paper, you couldn't get paper towels or Lysol wipes or anything like that? And remember how empty some of the store shelves were? I remember the first time I went in the store after it all started, I was shocked. I was shocked at how empty the shelves were. So, you know, you just don't ever know. You don't know what you don't know. Emergencies happen to all of us. All of us from one time or another. It doesn't have to be the end of the world as we know it. But emergencies happen to us. So why would we want to depend on someone else to take care of us and our family? Why wouldn't we want to be responsible for taking care of ourselves? So that's my question to us. So like I said, this month we're going to talk about different aspects of preparedness and how to get it started, even if you live on a small budget, because it's possible even if you live on a small budget. Y'all, it's not rocket science. We just have to do something instead of nothing. That's the main thing. Just do something. So today we're just going to just break the surface just a little bit, and then we'll get more in depth with the coming videos. First, we were going to talk about a plan. First of all, you need a plan. You know, you don't just go off willy-nilly. You need a little bit of a plan. So what are the important things to consider? Well, of course, there's food, and there's water, and there's medical, and there's security. And I would also say that in the time in which we live, that our spiritual preparedness is the most vital of any of these. So think about the things, these things, and then think about if, God forbid, say, we had another attack on this country like we had on 9/11. What if that happened? What if it was bigger this time and more widespread? You know, that would be a horrible thing. But what if there were a horrible storm that took out large parts of the grid, and that because it took out such a large part of the grid, it made a domino effect in taking out parts of the grid? It could be a long time before we got power back in certain areas. I know it was for us with Michael. It was a long time. And a lot of people were out much longer than we were. So, you know, those are things that, like I say, doesn't have to be the end of the world. But it could be, you could feel like the end of your world for a while. So what if earthquakes? What if the earthquake to end all earthquakes, like, you know, they've been saying the big ones coming in California. What if the earthquake to end all earthquakes came and happened on the West Coast? Or what if the New Madrid Fault woke up? What if it woke up and there was a big earthquake there? It was very bad when it happened back in the 1800s. But what if it wasn't even that? What if it wasn't even that big? What if you and or your spouse lost their job? Well, I would say at the time we're in right now that that's a very real possibility, because I know that a lot of people have lost their jobs during this pandemic, during the shutdown. And so I know that that has been a problem for an awful lot of people. And, you know, there may come a point at some time that you can't depend on the government or food stamps or whatever to help you. Sometimes, you know, there may come an end to that eventually if things are bad enough. So I'm just saying, you know, don't want to scare anybody, and that's not like that. I just want to make us think. Just think. So, if this happened though, if you both lost your jobs and there was no other help for you, how would you live? You know, what would you do? What would you need? What are the things that you would need that, you know, that really is important to you and that you could not do without? Like your medicines if you're on medication, you know. Food and water, you can't live without it. You just can't. You can for a while. Water, not very long. So I'm just saying it's something that we need to think about in this month that's set aside. September is set aside as Preparedness Month. And so if you think about that, then just start thinking in your head till we have the next video about what would happen if all you had was what you have. Think about it like that. If all you had was what you have on hand at this moment, what would you need? And I'm not talking about going out and buying $1,000 worth of groceries at one time. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about just, so let's start with thinking. What would you do? That's a good place to start. Don't go off crazy, half cocked. Just think. What would you do? What would you need that you don't have? So, anyway, just wanted to do this little short video as an introduction, really, for what's coming. I thank you for joining us today, and if you have not subscribed to Pemberley Farm, please do so, and check us out on Facebook. We are Pemberley Farm, and I just hope you have a blessed day, and God bless you from Pemberley Farm.